Hello, you join me at Cornbrook stop on the Manchester Metrolink. There are currently 99 Metrolink stops, and I can't promise that I'm going to go to every single one of them, but I will be going on every single line as I look at the secrets of the Manchester Metrolink.
So yes, in this series I'm exploring the facts which you may not have known about regarding every Manchester Metrolink line. In this first episode, I'm looking at the stops in Zone 1, bar New Islington, which I'll cover in another episode. If you enjoy, do make sure to like and subscribe, and also consider joining the channel for exclusive perks. Thank you. Now though, we should look at the history of the Manchester Metrolink. Trams were around in Manchester until 1949, but in the early 1970s, the government once again reconsidered a form of metro transportation within Manchester. This was in the form of the Pick-Vic Tunnel, an underground line which would connect Manchester Victoria and Manchester Piccadilly. However, this was abandoned in 1977 due to high costs. Instead, in 1988, the government turned to trams, giving a green light to convert the Bury and Altrincham heavy rail lines into a light rail system, with street tram running through the city centre from Victoria to GMX at Deansgate via Market Street and St Peter's Square, with a branch to Piccadilly Station via Piccadilly Gardens also opening. 26 T68 trams would be used to operate the 19-mile network, with the first phase altogether costing £145 million, with the service opening half a year late in April of 1992. With the full first phase route being formally opened by the Queen in July of the same year. Soon, phase 2 was being planned, with a new line to Eccles being built at a cost of £160 million from 1997 to 1999, with new T68A trams being brought into service, with the new line being formally opened by Tony Blair in December of 1999 as far as Broadway stop, with the line fully opening to Eccles by July 2000. Now the Metrolink was over 24 miles long, but it wasn't done there expanding. A new phase 3 would be drawn up, which would go by the name of the Big Bang due to its huge increase in the size of the network. The project would cost nearly £500 million and would create 4 new lines: the Oldham and Rochdale line, the Ashton East Manchester line, the Didsbury South Manchester line, and the Manchester Airport line. Phase 3 would be split into 2 parts, A and B, due to funding constraints, with a new 0.25 mile spur to Media City UK being funded separately and opening in 2010. As part of Phase 3, new Bombardier M5000 trams would enter service, replacing the elderly T68 and 68A trams, with the first M5000 tram entering service in December of 2009. Construction of Phase 3 commenced in October 2009, when the Oldham Loop Heavy Rail Suburban line closed for conversion, with Phase 3A also including the South Manchester line as far as Droylsden, opening in 2013. Phase 3B would cover the Ashton, Didsbury and Airport lines, and would begin work in 2011, with the line fully opening by November 2014, much later than expected due to funding issues. Now though, the Metrolink had an issue. There were too many trams running into the city centre. Hence, a second city crossing was constructed over 0.8 miles, from St Peter's Square stop via Princes Street to Victoria, with a new stop constructed at Exchange Square. Construction began in 2014, opening in February 2017. Finally, in 2016, approval was granted for a new 3.4 mile line to Trafford Park via Wharfside and Old Trafford. 6 new stops would be constructed to Trafford Park, with the line opening on the 22nd of March 2020, just a day before the COVID-19 lockdown began, leading to little ridership even after restrictions were lifted. Today, there are 99 metro stops with 9 different lines, each line running at an around every 12-minute frequency, including extra peak time services and enhanced daytime services. The Metrolink operates 147 Bombardier M5000 trams, with most routes operating single or double units. The newest of these was delivered in October of 2022. Unlike other tram systems, the Metrolink uses high floor platforms due to the takeover of British rail routes, which themselves used high floor platforms, meaning that low floor trams are ruled out due to cost constraints. In 2024, the Metrolink saw 42 million passengers use the network, just behind figures from 2018-19 and 2019-20, and up 6 million from the year before. In June 2025, £2.5 billion of extra funding was given to Greater Manchester, with Mayor Andy Burnham suggesting the funding could be used to extend Metrolink services to Stockport, with new stops in Bury, North Manchester and Oldham. For now though, we are left with 99 stops to discover, with this episode covering the facts which you may not have known about regarding the Zone 1 stops, of which there are 10 of them. Although I'm not covering New Islington in today's video, so only 9 today. Let's join me back at Cornbrook to have a look at that stop.
So yeah, let's have a little look at what Cornbrook has to offer. I will firstly just state that I am here in, this is the entrance to Cornbrook. This is a weird stop. Firstly, I'm not on the platform because it's just so busy. Not with people, but with trams. I've not been in Manchester for all that long, but the sheer number of trams which run between like Cornbrook and Deansgate is just crazy for me. Even, as someone who's been to London so many times, the fact that there are trams literally like every minute or every 30 seconds, it's just kind of weird, but like really cool at the same time. But yeah, Cornbrook itself, it's actually a kind of interesting stop because when it was first opened, it didn't actually open with an entrance. The entrance just down there was added a lot later. This is because the station opened on 6th of December 1999 when the Eccles line was opened, and the stop was basically built as a junction stop, and there would be no exit or entrance because the area nearby, well, it looks a bit like this. It's sort of just old industrial land. There's literally like nothing here basically, and that's why there was no entrance here until I believe 2006 when there were recent developments near here. There were more people living here, and then they were like, you know what, we'll add an entrance, go on. So they've added an entrance, there's a long staircase and a lift up to the platform, so now you can actually get in and out of Cornbrook station. But for like the first 6-7 years of Cornbrook stop lifetime, yeah, you couldn't actually get in or out of the station. I will just apologise up front because I know that tram systems and their stops are called stops and not stations, but I'm so used to filming trains, I will at some point in this video call them stations. So I will just apologise up front. I know that they're stops, but I will probably call them stations. My bad, I put my hands up, sorry. Let's get on with talking more about Cornbrook. The stop itself was actually opened with not 2 platforms, but 3. There's the main island platform, which of course remains today, but then there was a 3rd terminating platform for northbound trains going south, which would terminate here from the city centre. That platform was eventually removed when the line to Media City opened. This was because they wanted to basically redo the whole of the track system to allow for more trams to use and pass through Cornbrook station and, well, pass through the Metrolink network. So they removed the 3rd terminating platform, which still survives, mothballed or just let abandoned. I think there's like a staff building, which the old platform is now a path to. But yeah, they removed the old platform, stopped terminating services at Cornbrook, and now they either pass through or they do sometimes terminate at Deansgate Castlefield instead. Now if you look behind me, this whole viaduct that the railway is running on looks pretty old, and that's because it is old. It's actually the original alignment opened by the Manchester South Junction and Altrincham Railway in 1856, so there was an old railway station on this line. However, it didn't last very long and closed in 1865, and then in the 1960s, when Manchester Central Terminus Station was closed, this whole viaduct was abandoned. There was another viaduct just next to it which remained open for services through Oxford Road and Piccadilly, but this viaduct just here was abandoned until the Metrolink came in 1992. Now though, it's time to leave Cornbrook and go to the next stop in Zone 1 of Deansgate Castlefield, which is arguably one of my current favourite stops on the Metrolink network. So as that tram pulls into Deansgate, welcome to Deansgate Castlefield. Arguably, I think the best stop on the Manchester Metrolink. It's just so cool. Firstly, let's point out the obvious. It is a major interchange with Deansgate Railway Station, which sees local services by Northern to places such as Blackpool and Manchester Airport and other locations. The actual route through here lies on the old line to Manchester Central. I know I mentioned that at Cornbrook, but the reason I'm mentioning that here is that Manchester Central is literally just over there. And wow, that does play a big part in the name of Deansgate Castlefield Station, as another tram comes through and there's another one literally following it. So yeah, Manchester Central Station closed in 1969 and the track just here remained abandoned until 1992 when the Metrolink came through. Now the stop here was originally not called Deansgate Castlefield, it was called GMEX because Manchester Central Station was turned into a conference centre and was called GMEX. Now the reason I'm here and not actually anywhere relevant to the stop is A, because it's quiet and it's quite difficult to film when the platforms are really short and there's a lot of people on them, but also because just here was where the original platforms of Deansgate Castlefield tram stop was, or GMEX stop. That's because the stop here was completely rebuilt between 2011 and 2015. The stop was moved further down there. It gained an extra platform for terminating services, which are currently used by the Trafford Centre terminating services. and the whole track was just remodelled to allow for more services to pass through the station. The name of the stop was finally changed to Deansgate Castlefield in 2010, despite the event centre not being called GMEX and being called Manchester Central in like 2006 or 2007. So for 3 years the stop was called GMEX, despite GMEX not existing, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now the reason I'm walking away from the actual stop itself is because, well, firstly, this area is just amazing, by the way. I love Deansgate. There's just so many canals and viaducts and railways, and there's a lot. I'll put some pictures up from when I came here a little while ago and did some photography stuff. Now just over there is an abandoned viaduct, which a few years ago was converted by the National Trust into, well, a National Trust garden space. And yeah, it's just very pretty. Oh, and also there's like an old castle here. Who doesn't love a castle? During the rebuild of Deansgate Castlefield, the stop received a new footbridge over to Deansgate railway station, as well as a new living wall, which gives the station a sort of natural green feeling, which is quite nice. Now the upgrade at Deansgate Castlefield was originally, well, it was sort of put in doubt when Metrolink confirmed that St Peter's Square, which we'll look at a bit later, was going to be upgraded to a huge interchange stop. That put some doubt over the potential upgrade of Deansgate Castlefield station, as some thought, well, if Deansgate was meant to be this big interchange stop and now St Peter's Square will, then does that mean Deansgate won't be this big interchange stop? Well, no. In the end, by I think it was 2010 or 2011, Metrolink confirmed that both upgrades were going to go ahead, and Deansgate and St Peter's Square were going to be upgraded to these big interchange stops. And then in 2020, Deansgate became a terminus station for the Trafford Centre trams. Next up though, it's St Peter's Square, so let's go there now and have a look at that huge interchange station. Well, welcome to St Peter's Square stop. Now this stop is currently a huge 4-platform interchange station on the Metrolink and is a huge junction station. We'll talk about that in a little more detail in a little bit. But first, let's look at the history. The stop actually opened in 1992 on a completely different site. It was originally located with just 2 platforms located much closer to the actual library. The stop was built right outside the library and originally opened with basically nothing there, just 2 platforms and a shelter, and there wasn't even step-free access onto trams. In 2009 the station was rebuilt to have level boarding with the new trams which are coming into service, as well as just upgraded infrastructure, shelters and other things. In 2011, Elizabeth House, which was I believe a 60s, 70s office block, was demolished to make way for a new development, which I believe is the building which is behind me. Now during the construction of the new building, the council ordered that any new building would have to be built in accordance to a potential plan to upgrade St Peter's Square. So a new building would have to have room for a new St Peter's Square stop, because there have been plans for a long time to upgrade St Peter's Square. In 2012, these plans to upgrade St Peter's Square were confirmed when a new 4-platform station was formally announced to be constructed for 2016. The original stop closed in 2015, closing for a year and then reopening in 2016 with double the platforms and a whole new line. A new line was constructed called the Second City Crossing. Now this was going to go via Exchange Square. This means that now there is flexibility in case anything goes wrong on the original route through the city, and it just means that there are more stops and more lines running through the city centre. 2 of the platforms here at St Peter's Square are for those Exchange Square services which run every 12 to 14 minutes, and then the other 2 platforms are for all the other services running through Shude Hill Way. Now to construct the new stop, there had to be quite a lot of work done. On the site of the stop, they found a bunch of old graves from the old St Peter's Square church. Now these had to be fully covered over and made sure that they were fully protected from the trams running on, and then actually a new sort of spire monument statue thing was constructed in honour of the church which was once on this site. The site of the stop was also where the Manchester Cenotaph was, so that was moved to just there. Which isn't too far away, and in my opinion I think it actually works quite well there. It looks great. St Peter's Square itself, is it really a square? I don't really know. I guess it would have been before the trams were there. The tram stop sort of obliterates the square. The stop itself is extremely centrally located, as you can sort of tell. It is located really close to the Manchester Library, close to the Art Gallery, close to the Town Hall, Albert Square. There is a lot near here, and it feels pretty quiet actually for today, albeit this is a Tuesday at like I don't know, midday. The actual stop itself is very busy. There are a lot of trams, and it's just quite a cool place to sit and just watch some trams for a bit and just see the world passing by. I think it's quite peaceful and relaxing.
Nearby to St Peter's Square also lies the Rise Up Women Emily Pankhurst statue in St Peter's Square, which was unveiled on the 14th of December 2018, the centenary of the 1918 general election, the first election in the UK in which women could vote, which Emily Pankhurst played a huge role in allowing women to vote. It was the first statue honouring a woman in Manchester since the statue of Queen Victoria, which was dedicated more than 100 years ago.
So it's time to go to the next Zone 1 stop of Piccadilly Gardens. We'll do Exchange Square slightly later, just before Victoria, so I'll see you at Piccadilly Gardens.
Piccadilly Gardens stop opened in April of 1992 on the original Metrolink line and is directly adjacent to the bus station of the same name, which opened in 1931 and currently has 62 bus routes serving it. The tram stop is located just south of a triangular junction, which sees the Bury lines and Eccles lines diverge from the Altrincham and airport services, although more trams stop at Piccadilly Gardens than the nearby Market Street stop. The gardens itself were laid out after World War I, being redeveloped several times, including in the 1960s, where concrete walls separated the garden from the bus station, until 2003, when the space was redeveloped to turn Manchester into a 24-hour city, with the original 1930s sunken garden replaced and new buildings created. The stop was completely rebuilt in 2009, with new canopies and a wider platforms, and bar this, there isn't too much to say about Piccadilly Gardens. The gardens themselves have several monuments, including of Sir Robert Peel, James Watt, the Duke of Wellington and the Queen Victoria, and also used to have the Queen Elizabeth Coronation Fountain, which was moved to Plattfields Park. Now though, it's time to go to the next stop along the line of Piccadilly. Piccadilly tram stop is obviously located nearby to Manchester Piccadilly rail station, the largest rail station in Manchester, although we're going to cover the National Rail Station in another video on my channel, so do make sure you subscribe for that. The stop itself is located at ground level on a site which used to be a warehouse before the Metrolink. The stop was constructed in a protective concrete box to protect the supports of the mainline platforms from above, as well as from any collision or fire damage. The stop was originally a terminus stop, with one platform for arrivals and the other for departures, using a reversing sidings just north of the stop, until the 2013 Ashton extension, although services still terminate at Piccadilly. The stop was the first on the network to have the new Metrolink yellow branding, which was given to the stop in 2008, with the stop also having direct access to the rail station concourse, as well as having provision for expansion if HS2 ever reaches Piccadilly. The stop is located relatively close to the old Manchester Mayfield station, which was a terminus station opened in August 1910, closing to passengers on the 28th of August 1960 and finally closing as a parcels depot in 1986. It now houses the Depot, which is a famous nightclub in Manchester. Now though, it's time to go to the next stop of Market Street. Market Street stop opened in April 1992 as a northbound only stop due to road constraints, with a nearby stop called High Street taking the southbound traffic. In 1998, the stop was rebuilt to take both directions, with the nearby High Street stop closing. Market Street was rebuilt in 2015 with new shelters and other facilities. Nearby lies another abandoned stop. High Street, which I just mentioned, closed in 1998, but there was also Mosley Street, southbound only, which closed in 2013 due to the stop's location causing congestion at the Delta Junction for Piccadilly Gardens. Also, the stop could not be rebuilt to fixed level platform heights due to the confined space which it found itself in. Piccadilly Gardens stop was just 160 metres away from Mosley Street stop, so the decision was taken in February of 2010 to close the stop, with the last tram serving the stop at 55 minutes past midnight on the 18th of May 2013, going to Altrincham. The stop itself is very close to Piccadilly Gardens, as well as Market Street itself, which is one of the busiest shopping streets in Manchester, and is located very close to many big shops, including a Primark. Now though, it's time to go to the next stop of Shude Hill.
So hello, welcome to Shude Hill tram stop. This tram stop isn't really that big. It's only got 2 platforms and it's not really located anywhere super centrally that already isn't covered by a tram stop. But the reason this stop is interesting is because it's an interchange stop with Shude Hill bus station. The stop is also interesting because it wasn't actually an original stop when the line went through here in 1992. the stop only opened in March 2003 due to it being built with the combined bus interchange, despite the bus interchange not opening until 2006 due to delays with planning and several public inquiries being held into the bus station. However, there is now an interchange here with both Metrolink and B-Network buses, as well as Flixbus and Megabus, which also run from this bus station. Now though, it's time to go to the penultimate stop in today's video of Exchange Square.
Exchange Square stop opened much later than the other stops in Zone 1, opening in December of 2015 as part of the second city crossing, which gives the Metrolink greater flexibility for cross-city services. The second city crossing runs from St Peter's along Princes Street and Corporation Street until rejoining the original Metrolink line at Victoria. The line was granted planning approval in October 2013 by the Department for Transport, with the stop acting originally as a terminus, north-facing, from early 2015 to early 2017, when trams from Shore and Crumpton terminated at the stop, until the line was fully opened. Currently the line only sees services from Eastersby to Rochdale, as well as Shore and Crumpton services on weekdays. The stop itself has a very cool canopy design and is very close to Shude Hill and Market Street stops, just a 5-minute walk away. It's also located extremely close to Arndale Shopping Centre and the Corn Exchange Centre, where it gets its name from. The centre is known for corn, wheat and barley exchanges, and first opened in 1837, being rebuilt in 1903, and now houses offices, accommodation and food outlets after the shopping centre inside was closed in 2014. The area was the site of the 1996 IRA attacks, where a bomb was exploded in the centre of Manchester, where 212 people were injured. Now though, it's time to go on to the next stop along the line of Manchester Victoria, our final in today's video.
So yes, welcome to the last station in today's video of Manchester Victoria. Now this stop is, wow, it is really interesting and is also really cool. I mean, firstly, it is basically the only stop which has this huge roof canopy over the top of it. Of course, Piccadilly is underground, but it doesn't have that sort of huge arching roof that a station like here at Victoria does have. Of course, just over here, it also has the National Rail platforms and station. Of course, you can get Northern and Transpine services from Manchester Victoria across basically the north to places like Leeds and Liverpool and whatnot. There's a lot of trains from Victoria. But what's most interesting about this stop is about the history of it and about where I'm standing right now. Because before 1992, where I'm standing right now would have been part of the National Rail or British Rail station. Because before 1992, services to Bury left from platforms over here. I believe these were platforms 7 and 8, and then they were completely renumbered after the Metrolink came. But when the Metrolink came, they completely demolished the British Rail Station. When I say completely demolished, they kept the original canopy, but they of course had new platforms and things. It was opened with 3 platforms, but one of those closed shortly after being opening because it was something to do with leaking. I think there was too many leakages and then water issues, so they just decided to stop using that platform. The stop continued to basically be ran under the old British Rail canopy of the Manchester Victoria station until 2014, when the whole of Manchester Victoria station and tram stop was completely rebuilt with this new canopy. The whole station was refurbished, the National Rail station got some renovations and other additions, and the whole point of that was, well, for the Metrolink, they wanted to increase services on the new Oldham and Rochdale lines, so they needed to rebuild the station to allow those services to run, and they also wanted to reinstate the old third platform. Well, reinstate, I mean build a new third platform. Technically there's 4 platforms, there are 2 island platforms, but if you're boarding, you can only board from 3 of the platforms. The island platform just here, and where that tram's just come from, is for the Manchester Airport services. One of those platforms is for disembarking and one of them is for embarking. So you can only get on trams from 3 platforms, although there are technically 4 platforms in use. And with that, thank you so much for watching today's video, the first part of, I'm sure, many in this Secrets of the Manchester Metrolink series. In the next videos on the Metrolink, we're going to be looking at the individual lines, so I need to pick a line to do next. Maybe you can choose one for me to do in the comments below, and then I'll slowly make my way across the whole Metrolink network, uncovering the secrets which you may not have known about. I hope you have enjoyed though. If so, do smash like, subscribe, consider becoming a channel member or Patreon member for exclusive perks such as access to videos early, and check out my Discord server or Twitter or X or Blue Sky. Do all that, links in the description below. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
And of course, a huge thanks to my YouTube and Patreon members, including first class members Aaron Barry, Crispin McKee and JBNEL. Business Zone members Andrew Bowen, Anthony Harris, Anthony James Moore, ARK, Conor Grieg, Clive's Travelling Trains, Craig Mitchell 43, Dave CDF, Gordon Walker, Jay Teco, Lewis C21, NJTE, Real, Scott Wheeler, That Transport Girl, Train Life GB and Will Ho, as well as my standard premium and standard class members. You can get your name on this list from as little as £2.99 a month, or help support the channel from as little as 99p a month. By becoming a member, you get access to exclusive perks, such as early access to all my videos, as well as exclusive members-only videos. I really appreciate all your support, so thank you. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. If so, do check out my Discord server, Blue Sky and Twitter in the links in the description below, and I hope you've considered liking or subscribing if you haven't done so already. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Oh, this is kind of cool. Have a look in a sec. What's about to come just below me here. Look. Police car. There you go. Police car on tram tracks. And hang on, there's the tram. That was terrible. That was shoddy filming.